Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll just try to monitor to see if anyone is waiting to get in as we go. So if you are able to hear me okay and see the slide, you can just type a message in and let me know that that's okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead. And so I wanted to do this session today about um, surface EMG biofeedback, because I do notice a lot of people that are doing biofeedback don't seem to be using their EMG. And I think also people that aren't yet doing biofeedback could learn about things that they could do with it. So that's part of the reason why I did this, or I'm doing this webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. So these are some of the goals that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about ways, 5 ways that you can use surface EMG. We want to have you be able to identify clients that you work with or might work with who could use surface EMG training, and also be able to choose sites that would make sense to use when you're doing EMG biofeedback, and to also be able to conduct a basic session that you might do with a client with EMG biofeedback. So these are some of the excuses that I tend to hear as to why people aren't using EMG. First of all, some people feel it's too complicated, and other people will talk about having to touch clients. They want to do modalities where they don't have to touch clients because for the most part, people who are in mental health have been trained not to touch their clients, and so they are trying to figure out ways to do biofeedback without touching clients. And then I've also heard people say it's expensive because you have disposable sensors, some other people feel like it's old-fashioned to do EMG biofeedback, or it's boring. They're into doing neurofeedback, and they feel like EMG is old-fashioned and not as exciting to do. And I would say to all of those excuses that just stop. It's not they're not, to me, they're not valid excuses. So surface EMG is pretty simple. You're cleaning skin with alcohol wipe, and you're putting sensors on. Touching clients is not as big of a deal as sometimes people make it out to be. I've even had people have the client put the sensors on themselves. That's another way to get around that, but it's really not that serious. The supplies are really not that expensive, and it's a cost that gets passed on to the clients anyhow. And the benefit that they're getting out of the EMG biofeedback training is well worth the cost of supplies and other types of biofeedback. There may be some situations where there's not the cost of disposable sensors, but there are still costs. If you're doing EEG, you have paste and gel and all those kinds of things too. So there's always a cost to something. So looking at what surface EMG is, we're monitoring the bioelectrical activity that's produced by the muscles when they contract. The muscle contracts, energy is produced, that some of it makes it to the surface of the skin. The rest of it is absorbed along the way by the tissue, but there's enough that makes it to the surface of the skin that we can measure. This is an example of EMG being graphed on a line graph. You see two channels in this case. Sometimes that could be left and right. You know, if we're working with the upper back, we might do left side of trapezius and right side and compare them, or we might be just doing one channel of EMG. And you can see, oh, just this is wrong. Yeah, so here you have 0, this is 100 microvolts, and as there's more muscle contraction, of course, the line goes up, the line goes down when there's more relaxation. This would be a bigger contraction and so on. So it's a way to teach people awareness of the changes in contraction. So these are some of the ways that, the 5 ways that I wanted to talk about that you can use the surface EMG today. So teaching awareness of tension, helping a person reduce things like headaches and other muscular pain, reducing upper body tension during breathing training is another one. A lot of people who do stress management type of work or teaching breathing, often people are tensing their upper body when they're inhaling, especially, and adding an EMG can help to be able to show a person that they're doing that, make them more aware of it so that they can learn how to reduce it. Reducing tension during activities like typing or driving. So often people are not aware that they are tensing muscles when they're doing other activities. And by tensing those muscles unnecessarily and for long periods of time, it can produce symptoms like pain. Also, exhaustion. You're burning extra energy you don't need to. And also, when the muscles are in a tense state, they tend to produce more stress in the body. And so being able to notice that there's that tension there and to be able to release that tension can be helpful. And then we look at non-clinical applications like sports and music. Those are other things that you can use EMG biofeedback to help people with. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So awareness of tension. So you think of what are things that people are doing when they are stressed. So if someone gets upset, they're angry, they're worried. Often people are tensing muscles in their face. They might be also tensing muscles in their neck, their upper back, sometimes their lower back, their hands, their arms, their feet. People tense all types of muscles, and usually they're not aware that they're doing it. So if we use the EMG, we can show them that they're doing that. And then with stress, you can use the EMG to teach the awareness of the physical tension that's going on, and you can show them how to release the tension through things like progressive relaxation exercises, tensing and relaxing, but with feedback. So that can make a big difference if the person has feedback when they're tensing the muscles and relaxing the muscles and noticing where the levels are, even when they don't feel tension physically. So for a headache and just for general stress, one of the common placements that it would be used is the what we call frontalis or forehead placement. The 2 blue dots there would be indicating where the active sensors would go. Usually I'd put a ground in the center here, and that's going to pick up muscle tension in the face, but not only in the area where the sensors are. You can pick up tension from around the eyes with this placement, and even from the jaw, and even a little bit from the throat. So just from this one placement, you can pick up when a person is tensing the muscles pretty easily. You can think about many people that have migraine headaches are now getting Botox injections. And the main thing that that's doing is forcing the muscles to relax or not contract. And so if a person is able to naturally learn how to relax the muscles through the aid of EMG biofeedback, they can get a good result without necessarily having to resort to something like Botox. Here you have a placement that would be on the neck. This is to pick up tension in the neck area. So if a person has a habit of putting their head forward, something that a lot of times people will do when they're typing or they're looking at their phone or looking at their iPad, um, these muscles in the back of the neck would tend to be overly tense, and putting sensors there can alert a person to the fact that they're doing that and help them learn how to release the tension and notice what it feels like when the tension is less. This is another placement that would be a trapezius type placement, upper trapezius, and it could pick up muscle tension in the back. It's the type of tension a person would have if they're raising their shoulders or holding their shoulders up, especially unnecessarily during tasks or just in general because of chronic stress. This would be more specific to the right side. If you wanted to pick up tension across the upper back, then you can have a placement like this, where you have 3 individual sensors. And that's going to give you an average of the tension throughout the whole upper back. If we go back to this one, the 3 sensors or electrodes are on one pad. So I'll just show you what it looks like here. This is the electrode pad that is on her upper back. So you're really just picking up the activity in that smaller area if you use that type of sensor. Whereas this type, you're getting the activity across that area. So another thing that we can do is, if we're teaching breathing, relaxation exercises that include breathing, if you notice that a person is using their upper body when they inhale and they're raising the shoulders and they exhale and they drop the shoulders, you can add EMG. This type of placement would be one that could work. Or you could take this third sensor, the one of the active sensors, and you could put it in the front of the neck in the scaling area, because that can pick up when the person is tightening that part of the neck as they inhale. So this is just giving a visual of sometimes what people do when they're taking a deep breath. You could see all this extra activity up here that's really not necessary. Okay. And then here's another example. We can see here with the inhale, how the shoulders are raising. And what you would tend to see when that's happening is a graph that looks like this. So with this graph, this is from Jeff Cram. And here you see 2 lines, one for the right cervical trapezius and the other for the left cervical trapezius. So it's a combination of the upper neck and the upper back. So this is one line is the left side, one line is the right side. And each time the person is inhaling, the muscle activity is going up in that neck upper back area, which is not really necessary to do. And if a person can learn to reduce that amount of muscle contraction while they're inhaling, that can be helpful. And this is another one, driving and a person tensing unnecessarily while they're driving. How tight are they holding the steering wheel? You really don't have to hold it very tight to effectively drive the car, but sometimes because of stress that's going on, it's something that people do. And then facial tension, of course, this is a little exaggeration, but maybe not. You know, actually came across, I was doing some walking yesterday, and I saw someone who was driving that almost ran over someone pushing a shopping cart across the street. And after he stopped and the person went by, he made it a point to roll the window down to curse the person out uh, for pushing the shopping cart across the street and having him have to slow down. So there are some pretty angry drivers out there. So you could see tension in the face, tension in the upper back, tension in the hands, and those are all things that could be recorded and you could give feedback on. Um, you can, it might be a little more difficult to do it while the person is in the car, although, you could have a situation where you're in the back seat with a laptop or something and monitoring what they're doing. Might not be that safe to do that, but it's possible. Another thing you could do is you can use a driving simulator. So it could be something that's on the computer, and you could be monitoring the EMG in the upper back while they're driving, or other muscle areas, the face, the arms, while they're driving. And on a simulation, it could be a separate device like a PlayStation or something like that, or it could be um, a uh, a game that would be on the computer, a driving simulation game on the same computer that you're doing the biofeedback on. And you could have one screen that has the driving on it, and the second screen that has the EMG signal on it. Here's another thing that you can do is look at how a person is using their computer, typing. This is another thing that actually Eric Pepper talked about when I interviewed him on about his book Tech Stress. And one of the things we talked about is laptops, using laptops, and how that causes tension in the neck because you're looking down, and your neck muscles now have to hold the weight of your head up while you're doing that. And so it can cause extra tension in the neck. And really, the only way to relieve that would be to raise the screen up, which sort of defeats the purpose of a laptop. But it's an issue that we can at least look at what the tension is in the neck and upper back, and work on helping a person be more aware and being able to release most of that tension as they're working. So you might put sensors on the upper trapezius, cervical paraspinals, that's the back of the neck. You can adjust where your computer screen is, your keyboard chair, all those things, while looking at how that affects EMG levels. This is, again, something that Jeff Cram had done, is he was having people type and then take breaks while they're typing. And what they needed to do is be able to relax to below a certain threshold for it to count as rest. And then once they stayed down there for long enough, then they could start typing again. Of course, while you're typing, if you're measuring the activity of the wrist extensor muscles, they're going to be active because you're typing. You have to use the muscles. But when you take a break, those muscles should relax. And that can relieve the type of injuries that people get from repetitive tasks like typing. So looking at what kind of clients you might use EMG biofeedback for, you can think about, do they have symptoms related to muscle tension like headaches? And I would include in there tension headaches and migraine headaches. Other types of pain, anger. People who have problems with anger management, most of the time when a person is angry, they're tensing muscles unnecessarily. And so if they're more aware of that and can learn to release the tension, it can help them to manage their anger better, because it's mind body, and they're gaining more control over that system and that connection. Measure baseline EMG levels at appropriate sites. So where does a person feel tension? And if their resting levels are higher than about 3 microvolts, then EMG biofeedback might be appropriate. There may be some situations that you have to have the person in different postures to assess. So if you're talking about someone who has neck pain or back pain, well, you might need to look at what their tension is when they're sitting or standing rather than laying down, or standing up instead of sitting, or think about, even if they're sitting, not in a recliner or in a reclined position, you have to look at them sitting up, because that's going to be different than if they're reclining and the chair is supporting their back and their neck, rather than them having to support them properly with the muscles. So what types of clients could use EMG biofeedback? People who clench their jaws, people who are sitting like this with their shoulders up. If you're doing neurofeedback, if you notice that people tend to have a lot of artifact in their readings, it may be because the EEG sensors are picking up muscle tension in addition to the brainwave activity. So you might need to do some EMG training so that they can learn to relax the muscle so it doesn't generate so much artifact. And then people who have headaches, people who have neck pain, back pain. And then another thing that I added here is people who are musicians, people who play an instrument, whether it's trumpet or keyboard or guitar. And people who are going to get any good at it have to put in a lot of practice. Well, if they're holding the instrument or playing with a lot of tension, they're going to have pain related to practice, and they're not going to want to practice so much. So if they can learn to play their instrument, hold their instrument with less tension, that can be very helpful. So this is an example of what we might find if someone is tensing their muscles in their jaw or their temples in a brain recording. So here you can see this red would be indicating that the activity here in the 25 to 30 hertz is high. But if it's showing up right in the temple areas, it might mean that they're just tensing the muscles and it's being picked up as 25 to 30 hertz EEG, but it actually might be EMG. So to do training with them would be helpful. So if we're going to do EMG, this is what we would do. We clean the skin with alcohol, and that helps the electrodes to stick, and it also reduces the amount of artifact that we might pick up. We don't want the person to have used oils or lotions or creams on the skin where we're going to be putting the sensors, because that can make it harder for the sensors to stick and to pick up a good signal. So we want to be aware of sources of noise and reduce that. Those are things that we would want to reduce or eliminate from the general area that we're going to be working in. If someone's has a cell phone, it's best to have them take the cell phone off of their body or out of their pocket and put it on the desk at least a couple feet away from the equipment, things like that. But these are easily managed. And so now we're going to do a demonstration. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to go to my software. Before I do that, I'm just going to show the instrument that I'm working with. This is the Thought Technology Biograph Infinity, or ProComp Infinity. I'm going to be using the Biograph software. This is the sensor cable, or this is the MyoScan amplifier. We can use two different types of sensors. This type would snap directly into this connector here, and it would eliminate using this cable. But for the demonstration I'm going to use this cable and the type of sensors that snap into that. So take a look at that. So these are the sensors I'm going to use. We snap those into the disposable electrodes. And you see that they're color coded. The yellow and blue are active, and the black is the ground or reference. Okay. I snap these in first before I put them on the skin, and also before I peel off the backing. Once I peel the backing off, the adhesive is going to be exposed and it'll just stick to everything. So I just peel those off one at a time. So I'm going to start the software up here. And I'll share that screen. Oh, where is it? Okay, so now hopefully you can see the screen. I'm going to go to Quick Start, and I will go to muscular relaxation, turn my instrument on. Okay, and now I'm going to plug my sensor in where it says muscle tension B. So I'm going to plug my sensor in there. Now there's different instruments you could use for this. I just happen to be using the one that I use most of the time. This instrument also will do those other sensors that you see there, finger pulse for heart rate and heart rate variability, brain waves, so you can do EEG on here, skin conductance, temperature, respiration, and the HEG, that's the PIR there. So I'm gonna just, let me stop sharing for a second. I'm gonna prep, and I'm taking my glasses off for this part. I'm gonna just prep my forehead. This is an alcohol pad that I use for that. And let that dry. And then I'm gonna put these on. It's a little bit easier to hook somebody else up than yourself, but I've been doing this for a long time, so I think I can manage it, especially with the camera here. All right, so that's that. And I have a clip here, so I'm just gonna clip that on my collar so the weight of the amplifier and cable doesn't pull the sensors off. All right, put my glasses back on, and now I'll re-share the screen. And we'll go to OK here. And why is my screen looking funny here? Let me just restart that. Okay. Okay, let's start this over. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this, and let's see if you can see it okay. So now it should be showing the EMG there. And you can see on the graph, this is actually going up to 60 microvolts. So I'm going to just change that and make it more reasonable. So now it's going up to 20. And we have, this is a threshold line, this orange line. I'll put that up to about 5. So here you can see when the muscle tension is low, below that orange line, the color of the graph is red. If I tense, I'm just raising my eyebrows. Now it's gray when it goes above the line, and then it turns red again when it goes below. So you can see how it shows the changes in muscle tension. Now I'm going to just relax here for a minute, and you see it staying below. And one of the things we do is a behavioral test. We would ask the person to raise the eyebrows. So I'll do that again. Raise the eyebrows. See, it goes up, and then I relax. It goes down. And then here I'm going to bite my teeth together. Then you see it goes up, and then when I relax, it goes down. Here I can frown, and it goes up. And when I relax, you can see it comes down. So if you're working with a client, you can see where they are to start with, and then you can adjust the threshold. Let's say if I set it at 3, and my goal would be to stay below that threshold for the next 5 minutes, let's say. And I can change the scale so that instead of it being at 20, it's at 10, so it's more sensitive. And so now in order for me to keep it below the threshold, I have to be more mindful of what my muscles are doing, which muscles are affecting it, and releasing any tension from those muscles. So be the muscles in my forehead, my scalp, around my eyes, my jaw, any of those muscles. If I start to tense any of those muscles, then it goes up. He knows while I'm talking, it goes a little bit higher. And then once you get a person to do that, you might actually change the goal, and you say, okay, now I want you to relax, but then when I tell you, I want you to be able to just tense up to where that line is, hold the tension there for a few seconds, and then release it. So I'm going to practice that. And you see, when I tensed, I went above the line. So the goal would be to stay right at the line and then be able to release when it's time to. So those are a couple of the things that you could do with that placement. And I'll just also just show you what it would look like if I, instead of raising my eyebrows, just bite my teeth together this time. And it might be a little tougher to just go to 7 because the jaws are pretty strong. That was barely just touching the teeth together. So it's interesting that it goes up that much. Try it again. So if you have people that clench their jaw, it's going to probably give you readings that are much higher than this. It's not uncommon to see readings go up into the 30s sometimes. So I'm going to stop this recording and close here. I could save it. And let me just say EMG. And let me just put where the sensors were. And then I could look at the results if I want. And so I could see over time how I did. And I'm going to just close that. And I'm going to say I want to record another one. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to put the sensors on my upper back this time. So I'll take these off. So it doesn't really take much to put the sensors on and take them off. And I'm going to see if, usually I don't reuse the sensors even on myself. I mean, obviously I'd never use them on different people, the disposables, but just for the purposes of the same session and just moving the sensors to a different place, if they still stick, they'll be, they'll work okay. So I'm going to just see if I can put the sensors on my upper back just to give you a different sensor placement. So I'm going to just do this. This reminds me that I need to stretch more. Trying to hook myself up to my traps. Okay, let's see what this looks like now. So we will go back to sharing this. Okay, and we'll start. We'll see what this looks like. Now you see those little spikes there. I'm going to just relax again and you'll see some spikes there. That's a EKG artifact. So that's picking up my heartbeat. I'm going to just pause this. So you can see these little spikes, that spike, that spike, that spike. All of these are heartbeats that it's picking up. Now I could check to see what my filter is set at. Yeah, so it's set to 100 to 500, which is pretty good. I'm going to just leave it there. We could play around with the filter to get it to be less than that, but for the purposes of the demonstration, I'm not going to fool with it anymore. So I'm going to change the scale. So instead of 0 to 10, let's make it 0 to 30. And here you can see the graphing here. Now I'm pretty relaxed. And now I'm going to raise my shoulders. And now I'm going to relax. Raise my shoulders, relax. So now what I'll do is I will take a deep breath with shoulder activity. and you can see it went up over 20 microvolts. Now I'm going to take a breath. Try to take a breath about as deep, and also attempt to minimize the activity of the shoulders this time. So you see there was still some, not as much. So I would keep working on that to see if I can reduce it even more. So that was better. Try another. So I'm really focusing more on using the abdominal muscles when I do that. Now I'm going to put my hands to my keyboard as though I'm going to type, and you see it goes up. Now, once I have my hands there, it comes back down pretty much. And then if I'm typing, you can see it's still pretty low. But if I'm typing with tension, you can see how much it goes up. All right. So that's what we would be maybe training somebody to be able to type while they have the sensors hooked up, and see if they can bring that level down. So maybe we set the threshold so that they need to stay at 10 or below while they're typing. And if they go above that, maybe we have a sound that comes on or something like that. So those are ways that we can work with it. I'm going to just stop that and stop sharing, and then go back to the slides. So we'll go from here. Okay, so let's see. All right, so we did our demonstration. And so now this is an example of if someone is tensing the muscles, they're asked to tense the muscles and then relax. So here, this is an example. If they're able to do it properly, they're asked to tense. You can see it, the muscles recruit pretty much right away. And then when they're asked to relax, it drops right back down to baseline. Here, they're asked to contract the muscle. It takes a lot of effort to contract. It doesn't contract as high. They're not able to hold it. And then when they're asked to relax, it doesn't get back down to baseline. So that is something that often would happen if there's injury, or the muscle is just not operating in a regulated way. And so you would train a person to keep practicing that until they can have it look more like this. This is an example of measuring respiration with a chest sensor and abdominal sensor. Here, when the person is not breathing in the way that we would want them to breathe, they're breathing more up in the chest. And here we're measuring with EMG, picking up from the trapezius and the scalene. With the EMG sensors here, you can see most of the activity is with the muscles. When they shift over to diaphragmatic breathing, you can see more movement with the respiration sensor because their abdomen is moving, and less activity with the EMG because they're not activating the upper body muscles as much. And this is showing how posture can affect what the muscles are doing. Poor posture, you can see more work by these muscles, better posture, less work by these muscles. And this was what it could look like with the EMG sensors. Here, with the poor posture, you can see the muscles are working much harder. With the good posture, they're not working very hard. And then poor posture, again, you can see they're working harder than they should. This is using two sensors for left and right side of the back of the neck. And you can have a person do different postures and movements, like rotating to the left, back to center, rotating to the right, back to center, putting the head down, putting the head back up, and looking at what the muscles are doing and retraining. This is what you might do for low back. So having sensors on the left side and the right side, you would have the person sitting, seeing what's happening with that. You can have them stand and have them also do rotations and bending and coming back up for low back. This is one of the placements that Eric Pepper would suggest using for breathing. This is the combination trapezius. Here's the ground, and then the other active sensor on the scaling in the front. So you're having the person reduce muscle activity in this area while they're breathing. This would be a placement you might use for jaw tension, someone who grinds their teeth or clenches their jaw, or when they're angry, they're clenching their jaw. You can measure and give them feedback by using that placement. And then just to review, EMG Biofeedback is a great tool that you can use clinically, and you can also use it for non-clinical applications. We talked about in the workplace, thinking about at the computer, anger management, sports performance. So with sports, you can look at how a person is using their muscles. Are they contracting the muscles that they should be contracting? Are they keeping the other muscles that don't need to be contracted relaxed during times that they don't need to be contracted? And that can help a person with different types of sports, whether it's baseball or golf or whatever. There's going to be times that a person tensing their muscles interferes with their performance, and you can use it to train them on that. And then musician performance, it basically would be looking at unnecessary tension while playing. So, someone's playing a keyboard and they're tensing their muscles, their shoulders are up, or their forearms are tense, and so on. If someone is playing an instrument that they hold, whether it's a guitar, or a clarinet, a trumpet, saxophone, whatever, they could be gripping the instrument very tightly, or they could just be holding it the way that they're supposed to. And using EMG sensors, you could show them clearly when they're using much more tension than they need to. So that's the way I would use it for that. So don't be afraid to use your EMG. It's very useful, and it is relatively simple to use. I would suggest, and again, some people already have it and they're just not using it much, and other people don't have one and maybe are using other modalities, but they could benefit from using EMG. And then there are different types of EMG devices. The ones that are listed here are all thought technology devices, but there are other devices that would also be useful. The ProComp is the one that I was using today. The MyoTrack is a single channel portable EMG device that doesn't connect to a computer or anything. You just use it separately, and it has a light bar there that let's see if I can get this to show. Yeah, this light bar here would indicate the changes in increased or decreased muscle activity. It has audio feedback that can alert the person to when they're above a certain level of tension and so on. And then the Myonics is a two-channel EMG that works either with a computer or a tablet with an app. The Thought Technology Rehab Suite is for doing multiple channel EMG work. And then, there's other devices that we could talk about. If anyone has questions on those, be happy to talk with you about it. So this is my information. If anyone has any questions at this time, you can feel free to ask questions. I'll give a minute for that. And if you want to contact me offline, my contact information is listed there. I didn't include a phone number, but phone number is 914-762-4646. If you prefer to call, you can do that too. Let's see. I think I have maybe a comment or a question here. Okay, you're welcome. All right. So again, if anybody has questions later on, feel free to contact me by phone or email, and be happy to help. And if you need help getting your EMG going, let me know, and I'll be happy to help. If you don't have one and you need one, let me know. All right. Take care.